Shalom. Let's start off by giving our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone. Salutations to the hopeful elect that's pushing this truth across four corners of the earth, offer truth and sincerity. I'm on about back again. That's it. This one going to this article I ran into called The Hill. It said the U.S. debt exceeds 100% of GDP. So I'm read some of this article and I can read all of it. So the U.S. national debt crossed at 100% of gross domestic product (GDP) at the end of March, with signs that it might cross the record of 106% of GDP reached it immediately after World War II. The Bureau of Economic Analysts released the data on the national debt reaching 100.2% of GDP on Thursday, noting that debt held by the public on March 31st was 31.27 trillion. GDP over the last year was 31.22 trillion. The national debt was at 99.5% of GDP at the end of the fiscal 2025 in September. Maya McGinnis, president of the community for responsible for a responsible federal budget, said the borrowing did not come from a systematic global conflict, but rather a total bipartisan abdication of making hard choices. It's happening. It's happening. The national debt is now larger than the U.S. economy, about twice the historic average, he said in a statement reacting to the news. We heard plenty of alarming bells in the past few years, but our fiscal path, but this one rings especially loudly. McGinnis continued, the real question is whether or not our leaders in Washington will listen. I'm going down. This is Matt Goldwyn, senior vice president of the committee for a responsible federal budget, told the journal that it is uncharted territory. Excuse me. And scary place to be. The higher we allow our debt to grow, the more we erode our prosperity. We erode our prosperity and that of future generations. McGinnis said in her statement, rising debt could promise affordability by slowing economic growth, pushing up interest rates, and increasing inflationary pressures. Debt squeezes our budget with massive interest costs. She added that raising debt exposes the U.S. to challenges from geopolitical rivals will require corrective action. Otherwise, it could kick off a fiscal crisis McGinnis called devastating. And then that's going to lead. Is it going to lead to ultimately, let's say this financial system that we're in right now to go crashing. The stock market go crashing. It's gonna be the crashes of all crashes. It's a scripture going to that. But that's what's gonna come about. The crashes of all crashes is gonna come about. The great crashing. Is gonna come about. And like I say, ain't gonna be no point of no return once it happens. But like I said, it's gonna go from this financial system crashing, going down to they're going to go into a new way of buying and selling. It's going to be by way of they're going to make that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, mandatory for you to buy and sell. In order for you to function in society and so forth. But go from there. Let me see. This might be it. So in February, the Congress Budget Office CBO. The Congressional. Read that again. In February, the Congressional Budget Office CBO warned that if remained unchanged, the debt held by the public will raise to 108% of GDP by 2030 and 120% by 2036. The deficit will reach 3.1 trillion by 2036. Our budget projection continues to indicate that the fiscal trajectory is not sustainable. CBO Director Phillips or Swaggle, you would say it, in a statement at the time. The CBO determined that the changes were driven by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act signed into law last July, as well as higher tariffs and lower immigration rates. So, yeah, in that part reading say it's not sustainable. So that's what's gonna happen. The debt, the more this debt rises, and like I say it's worse than when it was World War II. It's double. All leading, like I said, all is gonna go to like this place, the financial system. This place, America, Babylon the Great going down. A lot of right now you see, financially people, it's hardships financially for people. And especially the middle class, really, for not be middle class and be done away with the way it's going, right now, and because it's gonna be either you got it or not, either you rich or poor, ain't no middle class, ain't gonna be no middle class no more. Middle class is getting, taken out, but so get your scriptures to back this up. This Habakkuk 2 and 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not aright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So the so-called white man Esau, my devils are some power, hey, they ain't upright, man. They are the wicked. The ones that's in power rulership right now, so-called white people, red people, Edomites, they are the wicked, man. Ain't they upright? They ain't, they ain't right. They not honest. They not straightforward. They nothing but liars and deceivers, man. Especially to the people here in America, Babylon Great. They ain't gonna tell you how bad it's getting for financially and so forth. They ain't gonna tell you how bad things really are. They just want to lie to you, keep you asleep, and keep you entertained. Bread and circus. And take away and taking away your rights. And folks, they say, oh, the Constitution, they taking that shit away. They taking away your rights and laws, man. But you being distracted by this entertainment, so forth. You're not paying attention to that. They keep you distracted. But Edomite doubles, they just ain't right, man. They wicked, man. Ain't nothing right about them. But it said, but the just shall live by faith. And that's talking about, the elect of the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are Israelites. It's not all Israel in this time are really, believing in the truth of the word of the word of Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Shai. That the apostles and the elders and brother are teaching through the spirit of the Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Shai. So the elect of the Israelites. The men of the Lord, those that believe Lord Yahushua in His truth is going to live by faith. It's going to keep the faith. Going and not. They're going to be stand up. Be stand up in the truth, and the wisdom of Lord Yahushua is going to stay and be upright. Be honest, be true. And not be as how this so-called white man Esau and my devils is. They not upright. They the wicked. They lies and deceivers. And like I said, 2/3 Israelites that are that had a mindset of the so-called white man Esau and my devils of this world. They're what they're gonna be. They're gonna be of this world. But the men of the Lord, the apostles and the elders and the Berg Stone, the elect, they have a different mindset. And believe in Lord Yahushua and His truth, and knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, wisdom, knowledge of the Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushua, and not the ways of this world. the corruptness of this world and so forth. But just being upright, stand up, being truthful, honest, in its truth, and not be like the people of this world, and not be like the so-called white man Esau and my devil, you know. And the elect gonna live by faith, and have this faith and truth of the Lord Yahushua and keep it to the end. But next verse, Habakkuk 2:5. Yeah, also because he transgressed about wine, so transgressed about wine. So the so-called white man Esau and my devil, they transgress about wine. So these so-called white people Esau and my devils, they don't keep the wisdom of the Lord Yahushua. They don't keep the Bible, the ways of the Lord. They transgress. They they don't keep the laws of the Bible. They don't go by the ways of the Lord. They go by their own way. They be writing their own laws and so forth. They go by their own way of doing things. Because like I said, the Bible, the word of the Lord, it condemns the so-called white man Esau and my devil. So they say God bless America, but what God are you talking about? Because the lawyer Howard Shah, he not for America, Babylon the Great. He not with this place America, Babylon the Great. He not blessing this place, man. The lawyer Howard Shah wants this place to be destroyed. But reading on, he is a proud man, neither keeper at home. So the so-called white man Esau my dad, they are proud, man. They proud, neither keeper at home. They have their military stretched out to other countries, and they go to other countries, set up these embassies, and try to just try to take over, and try to put their philosophies and and try to dictate how other countries should be like America. This is what you need to be. You need to be like America. You need to have American ways. Whatever. And try to take their resources as well. That's another thing too. But reading on, who enlarges his desires as hell and is as death. Because these so-called white people, Esau and my devils, they not about the ways of the Lord Yahushua, this truth, the Bible, the ways of the Lord Yahushua is life, But even my devils, they ways is of death. They philosophies and what they push out there is confusion. It's death. It leads to nothing but death. All these the mold, they push that mold agenda, and so forth, man. They push to push certain foods and stuff like that you shouldn't be eating, that's unhealthy and so forth, man. There's a lot of just things they push out there, products or whatever that may be, that leads to death. Philosophies, it leads to death, man. It don't lead to life. They wicked, philosophies, they push out to people to make them think that it's okay. That's why I say they don't, the Edomite devils, they don't keep the ways of the Lord Yahushua. They don't keep the laws. They don't keep the Lord or the Bible, the ways of the Bible, the truth of the word of the Lord Yahweh Shah. If they did, they wouldn't be like this. The people wouldn't be so, just out here wilding out crazy and doing all this wickedness. That the Bible, that the word of the Lord Yahweh Shah, condemns and hates about, that you do, that ain't right. That's why the so-called white man Esau and my devils, they ways it leads to death and not life. But reading on, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So these Edomite devils, so-called white people, red people that's in power, the bankers, the elites. Now they're not satisfied, man. They got all this money, trillions of dollars and shit. You know, you got all this gold and stuff, whatever, you know, that you stole, you know, definitely stole for the so-called Negro, Latino, Israelites, you know. It ain't yours. You know, that what the Edomite devils do. They can't be the satisfied. They stealing, taking the Israelite stuff and so forth, people resources, other nations resources, whatever it may be. Still not satisfied, man. You know, they just greedy as fuck. That's why these so-called white people, Esau my devils got to go, man. You know, Loyal Rashad, he gotta be the one to do it. Loyal Rashad got to return and take the Edomite devils down, man. Cause you know, the Edomite devils, man, they just greedy, wicked as hell, man. They can't get enough. It's like a blood-sucking leech. They can't get enough, you know. Just sucking you dry. Sucking you the life out of you dry, you know. This is what they doing, man. And like I say, that's why the Edomite devils gotta be get the hell on, man. Be destroyed. They just wicked as hell, man. It's nothing good about them. You know, they try to, they want to have full control. Like I say, with the NWO agenda, the New World Order agenda, they want to have full control of people in the nation, countries. They want to have full control, They want, like I said, they want to be like the Most High. They want to, they want to, like I say, the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. They want to chip the masses of the people so they can control you and track you and know what you're doing every damn day and track, know what you're doing and follow their ways and laws, which is, which is oppressing, it's oppressing to the people, man. Their ways is oppressing, man, and it nothing but, like I say, it leads to death, man. It's stressing and shit like that, And you got people out here on prescription pills and stuff because they stressed out about, trying to make a water bill payment, light bill payment and shit like that, just to keep the lights and water on, But if you have the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites in power, which is gonna happen, in the near future, Loyal Shah returns. Let's say Loyal Shah got returned to take the Edomite devils down. Then let's say you're gonna have the elect, the house of David, the men Lord, continue to push this truth, and keep believing Loyal Shah no matter what, and keep pushing this truth and keep the faith unto the end. The elect, the house of David, the men Lord that had this truth, is gonna be the next rulers, we're gonna have the men Lord, the elect body, the governing body and so forth, because the Israelites, so-called Negro, which are the so-called Negro, Latino Israelites, is gonna be the next rulers and rule the earth in righteousness and how it's supposed to be, set up, the righteous standard, because this is the wicked standard. You have a righteous standard, you have a wicked standard. This is the wicked standard that's set up right now by the so-called white people, red people eating my devils, man. These nasty, these nasty devils, man. These nasty, filthy, fucking unrighteous devils, man. They're just playing with people's fucking lives, and stress you out about some fucking goddamn paying water bill, light bill, and shit like that, man. That's why they gotta get the fuck on, man. Excuse my language. But I don't go from there. Habakkuk 2:6. Shall not all these take up a proverb against him, and a taunting proverb against him, saying, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. Woe means destruction. So destruction to the so-called white man, Esau my devils, man. These elites bankers, increases that which is not theirs, his, and then Chris wasn't not theirs, how long? So how long, how much long, is going to be for the so-called white man, Esau, my devils get out of power? We ain't got too much time for that. Their time of their rulership is coming to the end. We at that point. It just everything got to play out. The scriptures of the word lawyer, of the word lawyer, how about your shot? And any devil any wicked eating my devils, they're trying to do everything they're trying to stop, trying to stop the prophecies, but it's not gonna work. They're trying to stop it, but it ain't gonna work. But like I said, they ain't got long. It ain't long, it's just gotta play out, man. Like I said, days are going by fast, man. Time is speeding up for the elect's sake. But reading on, and to him that laid on himself with thick clay, So we'll go to that word thick clay real quick. What we at?
Strong's H 5671. Avteet. Avteet.
So that word is apteet. Apteet. Strong's H5671. So it said weight of pledges, heavy debts. So it goes to word thick clay right there is heavy debts. So that I was reading that article, they in debt, man. This place America Babylon Great is in heavy debts. And like I say, the more that debt rises, eventually it's going to have to come down crashing, right? And I said the crash of all crashes is going to come about. I'm saying, man, a lot of people not really paying attention to that situation, or they think like, oh, it's gonna be okay, whatever, but it's not. It's gonna come a time of day, where, hey, this economy right now that we're in, the financial system we're in right now is gonna come crashing down, and be no point of return. It's gonna be, like I said, the problem to the solution gonna be, like I say, the Edomite doubles and gonna bringing that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, to be the problem to the solution. Where you gotta take that chip, put it inside your right hand or forehead, whatever, and to buy and sell, to function in, like I said, to function in this world. But all that's gonna lead to, hey, Loyal Shah gonna turn, because Loyal Shah is not gonna let these so-called white people eat my doubles. He's not gonna let them fully accomplish their new world order agenda. He's going to return and interrupt whatever they got going on and destroy. He's gonna pop up on everybody. Everybody gonna see the Loyal Shah and the angels and the chariots, so-called UFOs, gonna pop up, and he's gonna bring his wrathful judgment down upon this place in America, Babylon the Great, and those that ain't right, and he's gonna deliver his elect, those that kept the faith, and no matter what, or those that died in the faith, so hopefully I'm probably righteous, and Lord Yahshua have mercy upon me, I keep my faith unto the end, but that's what it is, that's what's ahead. That's what's coming, This place, America, Babylon Great, it's gonna be, finna be going down. It's gonna be destroyed. Gonna be destroyed when the Lord Yahshua returns. And the chariots are called UFO with the angels, and the thermonuclear missiles come raining down upon America, Babylon the Great, and burning up and destroying everything you see here. So with that, I didn't want to make it too long. So again, I hope this is edifying. So again, I like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash, to the apostle elders, to the sister brothers, to the few Akwaf sisters that do listen, keep the faith, and Yahushua keep fighting.